I'm James Rosone.
And I'm Miranda Watson. We're the husband and wife writing team that created the military thriller Monroe Doctrine series and the military sci-fi series The Rise of the Republic.
We have some additional content we'd like to share with you guys today, and we hope you'll find it informative and entertaining. We're planning to create more videos similar to this in the future.
As always, please like, share, and subscribe. Now let's get started.
Chapter 36. Counterattack. 26th April 1991. 6th Armored Division, Ain Wasiyah, Saudi Arabia. The 6th Armored Division had established their forward command post in the industrial area of Ain Wasiyah, with forward elements on the west side of At-Tawdihiyah. In the early morning hours, they had monitored the actions of the Americans against the 21st and 36th Infantry Divisions, as well as the movement of the 1st Mechanized Division. All subordinate units had been placed on alert for future actions. Vehicles had been topped off with fuel and ammo. One regiment was in defensive positions forward of At-Tawdihiyah, along Highway 10, to prevent any movement by the Americans towards Riyadh. "General Faizan," Colonel Ghaffar, his operations officer, said, gaining the general's attention. General Faizan had been awake for almost 20 hours and was studying the map and the intelligence reports for the 100th time. "Sir, the lead elements of the Americans are crossing Highway 10 at this time." Looking up from the maps, Faizan smiled for the first time in many hours. "Now is the time to hit them. Order the 1st and 2nd regiments to attack as we planned. Notify the 1st Mech that we are attacking, and request they do likewise on our left flank." "Yes, sir, I will issue the order," Colonel Ghaffar said. Captain Bouzizi sat in his T-62 tank, waiting for an order to move. The plan for the counterattack had been gone over several times with the battalion commander. Every company commander understood their objective, and every crew member understood their job. Bouzizi felt blessed, as he had maintained the same crew since the war had started. They had been bombed and strafed by the American Air Force. They had eaten the dust of dozens of tanks moving ahead of them. They had been through discomfort together, and that had molded them into a strong crew. Each relied on the other, and, as brothers, they would not fail one another. As Bouzizi sat in the position, his mind wandered back to Basra, where he had been born, and the home his parents had raised him in. He thought of the school he'd attended as a boy, and the soccer team he'd played on, scoring several goals over the years. The trip to Baghdad to attend the university had been marked by fear, as Iranian jets had attacked the road he was traveling on. That one event had told him to become a soldier. He didn't like carrying the load of an infantry soldier, and had scored high enough on examinations to be selected to attend the armor course. On graduation, his first assignment had been as a platoon leader in a tank company, and he had seen action along the Iranian border in the closing days of the war. His actions had been noted by the battalion commander, and he'd quickly been promoted and given this company to command. His 16 tanks were fairly new, and all in good working order. "Sir, when are we going to move? My butt cheeks are getting sore from sitting in this driver's seat for so long," Private Alaf complained. "Hey, Alaf, maybe you want that pretty thing you were with this weekend to massage your ass, yes?" Corporal Atwan, the loader, chimed in. "Oh, shut up, Atwan. You know nothing," Alaf retorted. "I heard you were with your sister this weekend, Alaf. Are you really close to her?" Sergeant Al-Jabiri asked, half joking from his gunner position. "All right, you guys, knock it off," Bouzizi said. "Try and get some sleep before we move out. It's going to be a long day, I suspect." "Captain, do you really think we'll mix it up with the Americans? I have heard that their tanks are very good," Sergeant Al-Jabiri inquired. "Their tanks are no better than ours, and we are attacking to reach Harad. Whoever gets in our way, we engage. It is that simple," Bouzizi said. Just then, the radio crackled, and the voice of the battalion commander came on. "Move out!" was the only command. Bouzizi didn't need anything more. The 1st Battalion, 18th Armor, a tank battalion of the 24th Infantry Division had crossed Highway 10 and was encountering resistance from Iraqi infantry. The level of resistance was almost non-existent, however, as the infantry had only RPGs and 9mm-14 Malyutka anti-tank guided missiles. The missiles had an effective range of 3,000 meters, but also a major flaw. The missile was wire-guided to the target, but had to be flown with the use of a joystick. The fastest way to defeat the missile was to simply shoot in the direction of the launch site, which would cause the shooter to flinch and fly the missile off target. The Cheetahs, as 118 Armor was called, had one infantry company moving with them, and they had been busy clearing bunkers while the tanks remained in overwatch and fire support. Cheetah 6, Lion King 6, over, Colonel Jose, the brigade commander, transmitted. Colonel Jose was a Cajun from Louisiana. His annual crawfish boil for the brigade officers was an event everyone looked forward to. Lion King 6, Cheetah 6, over, Lieutenant Colonel Piscal responded. Cheetah 6, hold your current location. Be prepared for a counterattack on your left front. We have intel that an armor force is approaching from the west and a mech force from the northwest. How copy? Lion King 6 asked. Lion King, I have good copy and will hold in place, Piscal responded. Roger, out. Lion King signed off. Piscal thought about the current and future situation for a minute, then switched from intercom to FM1 radio. All Cheetah elements, this is Cheetah 6, over, Piscal transmitted. Each company-size element responded, letting him know they were listening. He explained the situation and directed each of the companies to assume a defensive posture with the threat to the west and northwest. All responded and immediately moved to the best terrain for their defense, much to the relief of the fleeing Iraqi soldiers that had been attempting to defend against the 369 armor. Suddenly, the raised Iraqi bunkers were useful places to hide behind, providing a hull defilade position for the M1 tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles. Captain Bouzizi's company was eating dust, having been designated the reserve company for the battalion. He hated being in that position, as did everyone. Each vehicle turned up enough dust to choke the crews, but following another company made it worse. The one consolation was the fact that the dust cloud helped mask your vehicles from the enemy. Slowly, Bouzizi could hear artillery begin to impact to his front. When this occurred, you were generally within 1,000 meters of the impacting rounds, as the tank was so loud when buttoned up you couldn't hear much outside it. Bouzizi just hoped the impacting artillery was friendly and not American artillery. All units, the American forces are withdrawing east. Continue to press the attack to Harad, came over the radio. Captain, did I hear right? The Americans are falling back, Sergeant Al-Jabiri asked. That's what I heard, Sergeant, Bouzizi replied, looking through the pillow blocks to see targets. He hadn't found any as yet. Captain, that doesn't make sense, Sergeant Al-Jabiri said. Oh? And why is that, Sergeant? Captain, why would the Americans be withdrawing? I haven't seen one American vehicle either engaging, retreating, or burning. All I'm seeing is destroyed Iraqi equipment and dead Iraqi soldiers, Sergeant Al-Jabiri said, pressing his point. Captain Bouzizi hadn't thought about this, but now began to confirm Sergeant Al-Jabiri's observations. Maybe, Sergeant, we have not reached the place where the Americans were. We will see their destroyed vehicles soon, Bouzizi said to reassure his crew and himself as they pressed the attack forward. In accordance with the brigade plan, Lieutenant Colonel Piscal had ordered his Cheetah elements to begin an eastward withdrawal when the Iraqi artillery began to fall. He covered his withdrawal with his own artillery support, which further masked his movement. He was going to drop back 2 clicks, 2,000 meters, which would expose the flank for the attacker to 369 armor. All power elements, Power 6. Execute Plan Bravo, Lieutenant Colonel Altamir ordered. The battalion staff and company commanders had developed and gone over a plan for just this sort of situation on several occasions. They had executed it at the National Training Center in Fort Irwin, California, and it had worked very well. Now it was time to test it with live rounds and live targets that were going to shoot back with live rounds. The plan was for one defending battalion to withdraw 2,000 meters, sucking the attacker forward while the 2nd Battalion attacked the flank behind the lead elements, destroying the follow-on force, while the 1st defending element engaged the lead elements. As soon as Captain Poggy received the command, he ordered the dog elements to execute. Lieutenant Bagel immediately pulled back his platoon, which was the southernmost platoon, and moved into the trail position, center with 2nd Platoon and 1st Platoon abreast, all heading in a northerly direction to cross Highway 10. The terrain was low sand dunes, 5 to 10 feet high and perpendicular to the route of march, but ideal for taking a quick hull defilade position. Dog 1-1, Dog 6, over. Dog 6, Dog 1-1, over, Lieutenant Bagel responded. 1-1, watch our left flank. Would not be good to be surprised by these guys while we surprise them, over. Roger, 1-1 has you covered. With that, Lieutenant Bagel led his platoon to the left flank, but maintained 500 meters behind the 2nd Platoon. Alaf, maintain your distance on the north side of Highway 10. Keep it in sight but run parallel with it, Captain Bouzizi said over his intercom system. Roger, sir. Bouzizi was getting reports of enemy contact from the more northern companies, but as yet he had not had any contact with the Americans. Everyone else will be bragging about how they drove the Americans back, and we have nothing to show for it, Bouzizi thought, as the tank on his right side exploded. Tank, 3 o'clock, Sergeant Al-Jabiri yelled, turning the turret to face the new threat. All elements, engage, 3 o'clock, Bouzizi ordered his company, and both turrets and tanks turned to face the threat. Before they could fire their first shots, 2 more of Bouzizi's tanks were destroyed. He watched in horror as his vehicles were being systematically destroyed from the left and right inward. Alaf, put us behind a dune and halt, Bouzizi yelled, wanting to be in a hull defilade position, which would offer some protection. Sergeant, do you see them? Bouzizi asked. No, sir. I just know where the fire came from, but... His words were cut short when something ripped the left side of the turret off, and the side of Sergeant Al-Jabiri's head with it. Gunner, Sabat tank, Lieutenant Bagel ordered. Identified, Sergeant Adams replied. Up, Anderson yelled. Fire, Bagel commanded. In the time it took to give the commands, the T-62 tank with the antennas and flag had dropped behind a sand dune that partially covered the turret. Bagel's shot, although it covered the distance in less than 1 second, had to punch through the top of the dune, which slowed the round to some extent. When it hit the turret, some of the kinetic energy in the round had been dissipated. Check your work, Bagel directed, and sought out their next target, which he quickly found. He didn't see that Captain Bouzizi had somehow crawled out of the tank and was lying on the ground. There was too much to do to notice. Power 6, Avenging Angel. 6, over. Avenging Angel 6, Power 6. Go ahead, Lieutenant Colonel Altemeyer said, wondering who this was on his net. Power 6, Avenging Angel 6 is a flight of 6 Alpha Hotel 6-4. Understand you have targets for me, over. Affirmative, Avenging Angel, Regiment of T-62 tanks. Altemeyer read off the coordinates of the lead vehicles opposing his battalion. Roger. We will commence our attack in 5 mics, over. Good copy and good hunting. Power 6 standing by, Altemeyer said, and began to look around for the Avenging Angel aircraft. He didn't see them, but could see the dust that was being generated by the rotor wash from a hovering helicopter. From out of the swirling dust clouds, 4 flashes could be seen, immediately followed by 4 more. The flashes made a beeline for the lead tanks, which simultaneously exploded. Between the 52 tanks of the 369 Armor, the 52 from 118 Armored, and the 6 Apache helicopters, the 1st Regiment of the 6th Armored Division was stopped and being systematically destroyed. Chapter 37. Boundary Shift. 27 April 1991. 3 Corps HQ as Salwa, Saudi Arabia. The 3 Corps operations order had the 1st Cavalry Division on the right flank and the 50th Armor on the left flank. The move to Az Salwa had been relatively unopposed, although littered with broken toys that the Iraqis had left behind. The 3rd Armored Cav Regiment was screening the left flank, maintaining contact with the 1st Marine Division, who was going into Al-Hofuf. Although the movement north for the 1st Cav and the 50th Armored was going smoothly, the Egyptians were struggling to maintain their equipment and keep up. TF Abu Bakr and TF Tariq were not having maintenance problems, but were stopping frequently to rifle through equipment and supplies left behind by the retreating Iraqi units. 3 Corps Tactical Operations Center was in Az Salwa. "Ivan, Yosak here," the voice on the other end of the satellite phone said. "And a good day to you, sir. To what do I owe the pleasure of this call, may I ask?" Lieutenant General Ivan Smith loved screwing with his old friend. "Yes, you may. Slight mission change for you. 7 Corps got hit yesterday afternoon with a counterattack by the 6th Armored Division and the 1st Mech Division, and was in a fight with the 36th Infantry Division. We're going to turn him slightly and let him liberate Riyadh. That's causing us to shift the 2 Marine Divisions and the Brits to take on the 21st Infantry Division, located in Al-Hawlian." "Can you take Al-Hofuf?" Yosak asked. "Sure can. That'll give Rich Schneider something useful to do," Smith said. "Good. How soon can you start that engagement?" "In about 3 hours. I'd like to have the Al-Fatah Brigade from Kuwait, along with the 2-5 Kuwait Mech Battalion, accompany him to reassure the locals that we're friendly. Once we get up to Bukaik, I'm going to have the 3rd and 4th Egyptian Divisions take the lead, along with TF Abu Bakr and TF Tariq as we move to Dammam. Put an Arab face on this exploitation. I'll put the 1st Cav in reserve to back up 50th Armor if necessary," Smith explained. "Sounds good to me. Just keep me in the loop," Yosak directed. "One more thing I need to discuss with you. The king is making noise about wanting a host nation commander leading the host nation forces. He thinks that would lend credibility to the Arab forces liberating Kuwait." Yosak explained. "I don't care for the sound of this," General Smith said with a sigh. "Well, this is just a heads up. Norm is blocking that right now. Just continue to march and let him sort it out." Major General Rich Schneider, commander of the 50th Armored Division, sat outside his TOC and watched the lone UH-1H aircraft circle. Who the hell is this now? He wondered, as the aircraft made a final turn to an approach. Like we don't have enough damn dust around here already. Now we have to add a bit more from a helicopter. He continued to watch as 3 individuals hopped out, and the helicopter began a shutdown procedure. As the group approached, he recognized Lieutenant General Ivan Smith, the 3 Corps commander. They had only met a few times, but he liked the man from what he had seen. Standing, Schneider rendered a proper salute, which Smith returned with a smile. "Rich, how goes the war?" Smith asked, extending his hand. "My little piece of it is boringly quiet, sir. Can't speak for everyone else," Schneider said. "Well, I think I might just be able to make it more interesting for you," Smith replied, and guided Schneider to a map mounted on an easel. "The Marines are shifting to the west, and we're moving the boundary between them and us. This shift put Al-Hofuf right in our expanded sector. The city has well over 500,000 residents. We expect that most of the Iraqi forces have pulled out, but cannot say if they left stay-behinds or sympathizers. You and 1st Cav are going to clear it out. The 1st Cav will clear the eastern side, and you the western side. While you're doing that, Task Force Abu Bakr and Task Force Tariq will conduct a passage of lines while First Cav will clear these residential areas and date orchards on the eastern side. You get the city proper. My ops people will send over some graphics with boundaries later today. It's paramount that you and the Cav are talking so we don't have a fratricide incident. This will set up our approach into Dammam with Arab forces. Once you and the Cav have cleaned out these residential areas, then we can push north and isolate Dammam for the Arab forces. Any questions? General Smith asked. I understand the order for minimal collateral damage still applies, so no use of my artillery in the city? Schneider asked. Order still stands, Smith indicated. Sergeant First Class McCoy was in the commander's position on his Bradley fighting vehicle, with a squad of soldiers spread out in front of the vehicle, cautiously moving down the street on both sides. Their platoon had been told to participate in clearing out King Faisal University. When they entered the main gate, their battalion, 1114 Infantry, along with the rest of 2nd Brigade, went to the east side. Each battalion of the brigade was formed into task forces with 2 tank companies from the 2 armor battalions, flipping with 2 companies from each of the infantry battalions. The area they were slowly moving through was partially wide open and partially very urban. Parking lots were the very open areas, measuring the length of 2 or 3 football fields. As they progressed north, however, it became more urban with dormitories and multi-story classroom buildings. Big Dog 3-1, Big Dog 3, Sergeant McCoy's platoon leader transmitted. Big Dog 3, 3-1, go ahead, McCoy responded. I just came across a track vehicle next to this dormitory that was squashed like a bug with one of those concrete bombs. We need to check this dormitory out. You come in the back way and secure the downstairs. I'll bring 2nd and 3rd squads in the front and start clearing floors. How copy? Big Dog 3, I have good copy. Let me secure the ground floor and then you come in over. Roger, standing by for your call. McCoy stopped his vehicle and gathered the squad around him. Okay, this is what we got. We're going to secure the ground floor of this dormitory, and the rest of the platoon is going to clear the upper floors. It's only 3 stories high, so it should go fairly fast. You 2 stay with the vehicle. The rest on me. Move out. The squad approached the back door and loading dock at the back of the building. From the smell, McCoy figured that the loading dock must be at the back of a kitchen. They lined up on both sides of the passageway door, and McCoy nodded to the point man, who grabbed the handle and pulled the door open. The 2nd man entered quickly at a low crouch with his weapon raised, ready for an engagement. Nothing happened. The rest of the squad filed in on opposite sides of the hallway. As they passed each door, the room or closet behind it was cleared and the squad moved on. 2 squad members peeled off to clear the kitchen. No one was present, and it didn't appear that anyone had cleaned the place in days, as spoiled food was on the counters. Dirty dishes were piled up in the sink, and from the appearance, the food hadn't been professionally prepared. However, there was a pot of water boiling on the stove. As 2 members scoped out the kitchen, the remainder of the squad looked into the dining area. It was equally a mess, with dirty dishes everywhere. McCoy touched one plate with the back of his hand. Still warm. Someone has just been here. McCoy gave the appropriate hand signal to indicate they had company in the building. Big Dog 3, 3-1, over. Go ahead, 3-1, the lieutenant said. Be advised, we have company in the building. Have you seen anyone? No, Big Dog, but we interrupted their dinner, it appears. Roger, let me know when you're ready for us to come in. Over. Roger, Wilco. McCoy signaled for the squad to move on, since this area was clear. McCoy looked around the corner of the doorway, leading out of the dining hall. It emptied into a large, open area with couches, tables, and reading stands with magazines, newspapers, and books. The magazines and newspapers were all 6 months old. On the far wall were windows overlooking the parking lot. To the right were a staircase and elevators. McCoy motioned for everyone to spread out and begin sweeping the room towards the elevators. As they approached, an elevator bell rang. Everyone froze, weapons trained on the elevator doors, with Private Hannah standing next to the door, back to the wall. As the door opened, a young man cautiously stepped out. He took 3 steps before the barrel of a weapon was in his face. Then he heard the voice. "Take another step and I'll blow your fucking head off." The young man spoke enough English that he fully understood, and did not move. "Hogtie this bastard! Check him for weapons," McCoy ordered, and the young man was tossed to the floor, zip ties placed on his wrists. Leaning over, McCoy quietly asked, "Do you speak English, Mohammed?" "You bet your sweet ass I do, and my name is Frank, not Mohammed," the young man answered, with a slight Boston accent. "What the— are you bullshitting me?" McCoy asked, as he pulled the young man to his feet. "I kid you not, Sergeant. My name is Frank, and I'm from the south side of Boston. I was born in Iraq and moved to Boston with my parents in the late 70s, Frank explained. "So what the hell are you doing here?" McCoy asked, suspicious of the young man. "Well, I was enrolled in the university studying engineering when the Iraqis attacked. I couldn't get out of the country, so I figured I would just hunker down and stay here until it was safe to leave, or until you came and got me," Frank said. "Now can you untie me?" "No, not until your story checks out. You got a passport?" McCoy asked. "Yeah, it's hidden in my room with my Massachusetts driver's license, but you don't want to go up there," Frank replied. "And why is that?" McCoy asked with renewed interest. "Because there are about 20 Iraqi soldiers up there on the 2nd and 3rd floors, scared as shit. They were told to stay here and defend the campus with a bunch more, but everyone else already left. These guys didn't have a vehicle and so they were left behind," Frank informed him. "And they just let you ride down here?" McCoy interrogated with suspicion now. "No, actually, they asked me to come down and negotiate a surrender. They offered 2 options. Option 1 is you can surrender to them, and they'll take your vehicle and leave you here. Option 2 is they'll surrender to you if you promise not to shoot them and give them a vehicle. Those are the 2 choices that their lieutenant would consider. What do you want me to tell them?" McCoy was dumbfounded when he heard this. "Big Dog 3, 3-1? Go ahead, 3-1. Big Dog, you need to come in here and hear this." "Roger, be right there." Entering the building, the lieutenant was surprised to see the squad actually relaxing, but covering the stairs and the other elevator door. McCoy let Frank offer the lieutenant the options for surrender. "Gee, Frank, I'm going to have to consider these terms of surrender," Big Dog said. Let me think about this for a minute." He walked towards the front door. Frank couldn't believe that the lieutenant was considering both options. "Okay, Frank, we'll do option 2, but they are not getting a vehicle. You go back upstairs and tell them I want every weapon, grenade, pistol, rifle, and toothpick placed in an elevator and sent down. Then I want everyone to walk down the stairs, 5 steps between them, with their hands above their heads, not behind their heads, but above their heads with palms open. If I see someone that isn't that way, we shoot them. Understood? Hey, Lieutenant, I speak Bostonian English, so no need to spell it out for me. I'll take the elevator back up and start sending them down," Frank said as he motioned for them to untie his hands. "Untie him," McCoy said to a squad member. "Oh, Frank, when you come down those stairs, the same applies to you. And you best have that passport in your back pocket along with that driver's license, or you'll be with your friends a long time. You read me, bro?" McCoy asked in his best New York accent. 10 minutes later, the elevator bell rang again. When the door opened, a collection of weapons, to include rifles, automatic weapons, RPG rockets, grenades, and knives, was on the floor. A voice called out from the stairwell. "Okay, guys, we're coming down." It was Frank. "Just be sure they understand the procedure, Frank," McCoy yelled. "They do. I rehearsed it with them." The first Iraqi soldier appeared around the corner. His steps were very measured as he showed all his teeth in a wide smile. "Allo, American GI. Allo. I go Boston with Frank." "Just come on down nice and slow," McCoy said, not sure if anyone understood him. As each Iraqi soldier approached, they all said the same thing. McCoy and the lieutenant, as well as the entire platoon, were wondering about this. Finally, Frank showed up. "Hey, Frank, what's this shit about them all going to Boston with you?" Big Dog asked. "Well, I had to offer them something in return for them not getting a vehicle to leave in, so I told them I would take them to Boston with me. They believed me, I guess. Can you get us all on a flight together?" Frank asked with a broad smile. "I'll see what I can do," Big Dog replied, as he shook his head and began to chuckle. On the other side of the campus, 213 Infantry, part of 1st Brigade, was not having a fun time. A company-size unit was trapped in the administration building, and some had taken refuge in the University Mosque. "Guardian 6, Patriot 6, over," the Alpha Company commander, Captain Dietz, radioed. "Patriot 6, Guardian 6, go ahead," Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Hines replied. "Guardian 6, I need some Arab forces over here. We have a platoon-size element holding up in the mosque and engaging. Over." "Roger, I'll try to get someone over there. Right now, I don't think we have anyone following. Over." "Understood. We're standing by but cannot get these areas cleared until we get these guys out. Patriot 6 out." Turning to his ops officer, Major Duval, Hines instructed, "Get Brigade on the horn and see if we have any Arab forces following us that we can get to come over and talk these guys out." An hour later, Major Duval came to Hines's position and indicated, "Sir, Brigade says it'll be 3 hours before they can get an Arab force over there to get these people out. But 2nd Brigade says they may have a solution to our problem here in 10 minutes. Seems one of their units captured a guy that claims he's an American from Boston. He talked a platoon into surrendering an hour ago. Speaks fluent Arabic." "Shit! Get the guy over here and let's see what he can do," Lieutenant Colonel Hines directed. "I figured you'd want him, and he's on his way now. Should be here in a few minutes," Major Duval said with a grin. "Well, send him right down to Dietz so he can put the guy to work. Tell Dietz to put him in a helmet and flak jacket. Last thing I need is some civilian being shot because we didn't offer him the proper equipment." Climbing out of the Bradley fighting vehicle, Frank was amazed at the inner workings of the beast. The pinging sounds off the side of the vehicle told him he wasn't in Kansas, maybe the south side of Boston, but not Kansas. He was met by Captain Dietz, who was standing behind the vehicle when it stopped. In his hand was a white flag. "I'm Captain Dietz. Who are you?" "Sir, I'm a civilian. Name's Frank." "Well, Frank, you're now a civilian contractor for me. Put this helmet and chest protector on. Won't stop a bullet, but it'll help with shrapnel," Dietz said as a soldier handed the items to Frank. "Okay, here's the situation. We have about a platoon-size force in that mosque. We can't go in, and they don't appear to want to come out. I need you to talk them into surrendering and come out. Can you do that?" Dietz asked. "I can try, sir. Worked with the last group, but I had been with them for almost a month," Frank replied. "Well, work your magic and carry this flag. Hope they recognize it." "Good luck," Dietz added. "Luck? I'm going to need a lot more than that in the next few minutes." "I'm going to need a fucking miracle," Frank thought as he raised the flag from behind the Bradley and slowly emerged. The shooting stopped. Well, that's the first good sign. Frank slowly walked across the parking lot to the front door of the mosque. Dietz and the company watched as Frank walked up the front steps and started speaking, but they couldn't hear what was being said. Dietz got a bit worried when the front door opened, and Frank went inside. "I didn't want that to happen. Now they have a hostage if they want one." Dietz kept checking his watch. Frank was in there for 30 minutes. "What's taking so damn—" Dietz didn't get to finish his thought before the sound of a gunshot emanated from the mosque. Oh shit. They shot Frank ran through Dietz's mental database. Everyone was still in their battle positions and the Bradley's 25mm Bushmaster chain guns were trained on the mosque. After a minute, the front door opened and the white flag came out. Frank was holding it and waving. Slowly he walked forward, leading a line of 30 Iraqi soldiers with their hands held high, palms out and open. The soldiers of Alpha Company slowly moved in to surround them. Dietz approached Frank. "What the hell was the gunshot? I thought you were a goner." Frank placed the white flag against the Bradley. It seems that there was a vigorous discussion after I made them the offer to surrender. Seems the officer was against it, wanting to hold out for reinforcements. A vote was taken. He lost and protested. He lost the protest as well. His body is in the mosque. Chapter 38. Major Decisions. 29th of April 1991. Iraqi Army HQ. Kuwait City, Kuwait. All the key players in Saddam's inner circle were present. Sultan Hashim Ahmed al-Tai, the defense minister, was chairing the meeting, but Tariq Aziz, the deputy prime minister, was sitting in to hear the discussion. Ibrahim Ahmed Abd al-Satan al-Tikrit, the armed forces chief of staff, was present, as well as Saif al-Din Fulayih Hassan Taha al-Rawi, the commander of the Republican Guard. Hamid Raja Shalah al-Tikriti was present to address Air Force issues. Corps commanders were not present. "Why isn't Admiral Hassan present for this meeting?" Altai asked. A naval officer on the sidelines answered the question. "Sir, he was aboard ship when it was hit by a missile on the first day. A rescue operation failed to find any survivors." All right, let's get started. The purpose of this meeting is to look at the current situation and decide what to do from here. First, let's hear from the Air Force. General al-Tikriti, Altai indicated. The Air Force has sustained great losses in the past month. The Americans now have 5 aircraft carriers operating within strike distance of most of Saudi Arabia, and with in-flight refueling, they can loiter over the target area for over an hour. The American and British Air Forces are flying out of Oman and Egypt, and also are capable of striking almost anywhere in day or night conditions. Their heavy bombers are coming from Diego Garcia and Great Britain. What fighter-capable aircraft we have left are attempting to protect our ground forces. Our close air support aircraft are being mauled by the American fighters whenever they lift off. The air defense forces have been inefficient in curtailing the American attacks. The General Muzahim Saab Hassan al-Tikriti slammed his hand down on the conference table. "How dare you blame the air defense forces for your inability to maintain air superiority? If you count the number of downed American aircraft, the air defense forces have brought down more than double what the Air Force has shot down, and our losses have been equally high. We turn on a radar, and there is a good chance that their Wild Weasel missile will engage the system," he protested with a raised voice. "Enough!" Sultan Altai yelled. "We are here to examine the current situation and decide the future. We are not here to point fingers and make accusations. General al-Tikriti, please finish your assessment of the Air Force without making accusations." "Yes, Mr. Minister. The Air Force has, as of this morning, about 300 aircraft left, to include ground attack and interceptors, compared with probably 3,000 aircraft, most being close air support and fighters, that the Americans have. If we are having a good day, we can put up 60 sorties a day. If the Americans are having a bad day, they can put up about 1,500 aircraft a day for 30 days. They are currently averaging about 2,000 sorties a day. At this point, I am recommending that we hold what aircraft we have in reserve for the defense of Kuwait and our own homeland," General al-Tikriti concluded. "General al-Tikriti, is there anything else you would like to add about our air defense forces?" Altai asked. "Sir, we have sufficient air defense assets at the division and corps levels, and we are in good supply of more missiles. Kuwait and northern Saudi Arabia are under the umbrella provided by the SA-2 and SA-3 systems, as well as the SA-6 systems. These systems overlap with those that we have over Baghdad and major cities in Iraq. There is also a good supply of air defense guns guarding our key installations under these missile umbrellas. If our ground forces pull back closer to Kuwait, they will come under these umbrellas," General al-Tikriti announced. Unbeknownst to the others, he and General Ibrahim al-Tikrit, as well as al-Rawi, had already discussed the air defense situation, noting the lack of Air Force support. "General Ibrahim al-Tikrit, your assessment of the ground campaign," Altai asked. General Al-Rawi and I have discussed the ground situation and are in agreement. The Americans have an uninterrupted supply line from Oman, and now they have a port on the Red Sea, as well as from which they are supplying the Yangtze Airborne Corps. They have crushed the 90th Corps and reduced the 2 Corps to 2 divisions and remnants of 3 others as best we can tell. The 2nd Republican Guard Corps is at 50% strength and withdrawing through Hafar al-Batan so it can be reconstituted. The IV Corps is engaged right now with the American 7th Corps, the American 3rd Corps, and 2 Marine divisions, all of which are enjoying air superiority. General Ghanem doubts he can stop them from destroying his entire force, as they are mostly armor and mechanized forces, and he is mostly infantry. The 1st Republican Guard Corps has already pulled back to Kuwait and taking up defensive positions there. The 7th Corps has a screen line south of Kuwait with only 1 armored division and 7 infantry divisions. We doubt that they can stop the American mechanized and armor forces. Our recommendation is to pull everyone back to Kuwait and prepare a rigorous defense to stop the Americans. This would put our forces under a strong air defense umbrella, shorten our supply lines, and allow our infantry units to fight from prepared positions en masse instead of spread out over the vast desert, General Ibrahim al-Tikrit concluded. Altai looked around the room, and the faces confirmed his thoughts. They had gone too far and needed to pull back before the entire army was lost. He turned to 2 members of the Ministry of Defense, General Abd al-Jabbar Shanshal and General Abd al-Jabbar al-Asadi. Gentlemen, your assessment, please? Altai asked. He did not want to be on this sinking ship alone. The 2 members looked at each other before al-Asadi spoke. We are of the opinion that the recommendations made are valid and should be implemented as soon as possible, General al-Asadi answered. Mr. Aziz, you have heard our recommendations. These recommendations should be instituted quickly, Altai said. I will convey your recommendations this afternoon to Mr. Hussein, and you will have your answer very soon, the Deputy Prime Minister said. Everyone hoped the answer wouldn't be a bullet in the back of the head. Chapter 39. Joint Air Assault Operations. 30th April 1991. 3rd Brigade, 82nd Airborne Division, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Sir, you can go right in. General Ford is waiting for you, the general's aide said, as Colonel Jim Irons walked into the outer office. Morning, sir, Irons said, pausing in the door to render a salute. Returning his salute, Ford motioned to an overstuffed chair in the office with a coffee table in front and 2 cups of coffee already poured. Picking up a cup and sitting down next to Irons, Ford took a sip. Good things come to those who wait, Jim, Ford said. I've heard that, sir, Irons replied, not sure where this was going. Well, you've waited long enough. Is your brigade ready for a drop? Ford asked. Irons nearly spat his coffee out. You're damn right we're ready. When and where, sir? The where is the airport at Tabuk. The when is in question. The 101st is leapfrogging FOBs north towards the airfield and the garrison compound that's adjacent to the airfield. The 28th and 29th Infantry Divisions are conducting a ground move to link up at each FOB, but we want those facilities intact when the infantry divisions get there. Powers above us are afraid that the Iraqis will blow everything and make it unusable to us. I'll keep you posted on when, but it'll be short notice. We'll have the C-130 aircraft to support your full brigade, infantry, artillery, and tow vehicles. Wish we kept a couple of Sheridans here to send in with you, but hindsight. Ford left his sentence hanging. Sir, this is great. The boys will really be excited to get a combat jump in and a star on their wings, Irons said as he finished his coffee. His mind was racing with what had to be done. Yeah, looking forward to that myself, Ford replied with a big smile. Sir, you shouldn't. Sir, you can't, Irons stammered. And why not, Colonel? You don't think I'm going to keep the division staff here in the perfume palace waiting? Shit. I have one plane just of the division staff and one for vehicles in the follow-on. I want to be standing on the runway and greeting Peters. Several hundred miles away in Tabuk, General al-Duri had just placed the phone back in the cradle. The call from General Ibrahim Ahmed Abd al-Sattan al-Tikret had sobered his mood. He looked up at his aide. Please have General Arif Jahid come see me immediately. 20 minutes later, General Jahid entered the Corps commander's office. You wish to see me, sir? Jahid commented. Yes, sit down, al-Duri said, motioning to a stiff-backed chair while he remained behind his desk. Hear me and hear me good. There will be no discussion. We have been ordered to move from Tabuk in the next 24 hours and head back to Iraq. As your division is the only division left mostly intact, I want you to leave as quickly as you can. Take all the supplies you can carry and fuel. Speed is of the essence, so you will take Highway 15 to Highway 80 to Sakaka. You may spread your division out where the terrain permits, but where it doesn't, use the highways. Attempt to cover as much distance as you can under the cover of darkness in Blackout Drive. The air defense forces are going to position along the highway and travel with you to protect you from the American aircraft, but there are no guarantees at this point. Just get back into Iraq as quickly as possible and continue to move east to the Kuwait border. When you cross back into Iraq, head for the airfield at Al Salman. Supply points along your route are planned and will be coordinated with you. Any questions? Where will you be? Jahid asked. The Corps headquarters are flying out of here tomorrow from the airport to Al Salman. Once there, we will move a Jump 2C west to stay in contact with you and coordinate the resupply points. As we speak, supply convoys are heading west to link up with you, al-Duri explained. What about the other units? When are they coming out? Jahid asked, worried not about their safety but about the congestion on the highway in front of him. What other units, Jahid? The 51st and General Zogby do not exist. We have heard nothing from them, and the last transmission was from Colonel Malouf, who was caught in an ambush. The 14th has been attempting to refit, but only has one regiment capable of doing anything, and is south of Tabuk. He and what's left of the 37th Division will attempt to slow the American advance to give you time to get out of here. What was left of the 7th Division has joined the 37th Division. As it stands now, I have managed to lose most of the Corps. I can only imagine what will be waiting for me in Baghdad when and if I return. Lieutenant Scroggins had been in a good position to receive transmissions from both Mallory's and Mays's positions, as well as transmit back to Zontit Airborne Corps. Staff Sergeant Mays and Sergeant Smith were covering the garrison complex and had discovered the SA-6 air defense missile site. As they watched, activity at the complex picked up to the point of almost being frantic. "Hey, Smitty, look at this shit," Mays said, poking Smith awake. "Yeah, what we got?" Smith asked, raising himself up from his sleeping position to look through the bushes that were offering concealment to the pair. "Oh, shit. They're fixing to bug out. Look at the way they're loading supplies on those vehicles. No order to it, just get it on a vehicle," Smith pointed out. "Makes you wonder where they're going in such a hurry, doesn't it?" Mays said. "We best report this. The LT is in a position to observe if they roll south. Mallory and Peppers should be able to see if they roll east," Smith said. Mays picked up his radio mic. "Shit, we changed frequency and call signs last night. Do you have the new codes?" he asked with some frustration. "Yeah, let me dig it out. I put the new code in last night but forgot the call signs." "Wait one," Smith responded, a bit embarrassed that he'd forgotten the new call signs already. "Here it is. Our new call signs are Starlight 2 for the lieutenant, Starlight 2-1 for us." Mays pressed the mic switch. "Starlight 2, Starlight 2-1, over." "Starlight 2-1, go ahead." Mays immediately recognized the lieutenant's voice over the radio. "Starlight 2, sitrep. Complex is alive with activity in the last hour. They appear to be loading up to move out. Not sure of direction of movement, but they're definitely loading to bug out, Mays reported. Roger, 2-1. Break. Starlight 2-2 over. Starlight 2, this is 2-2 over. 2-2, did you monitor 2-1? Over. Roger, we aren't seeing any above normal activity. We'll watch to see if anyone comes by our location. Over. Starlight 2-1, is that Sierra Alpha 6 still in position? Over? Roger, has not moved, Mays responded. Roger, Starlight 2 out. As soon as he could, Lieutenant Scroggins changed radios and passed this new intelligence activity to Ixtiate Corps. Bob, is your brigade all here now? General Peters asked the 3rd Brigade commander. Colonel Bob Clark had been with the division as a battalion commander and now as a brigade commander, and he couldn't be happier. From his early days as a platoon leader in Vietnam, with a follow-on assignment as company commander at Fort Lewis in the early 1970s, and ultimately as aide to the Chief of Staff of the Army, he'd had a great career. His soldiers loved the man. He was the epitome of a soldier-statesman and a warrior. 3rd Brigade had been under the command of another officer, but a change of command had occurred just before the invasion of Kuwait. Yes, sir. We closed on Falcon last night. My ground convoy is pulling in now between elements of the 29th Division, Colonel Clark responded. Yeah, the 28th is going to push off to the east of Tabuk, and the 29th following up right behind us. Your upcoming mission is to conduct an insertion into the military complex on the west side of Tabuk. Intel is telling us that the Iraqis are bugging out. We've got to give the aviators some downtime as we've been pushing them hard for the past 10 days. So you have 24 hours to get organized and come up with your plan. Aviation commanders will be over later today to discuss aircraft availability. I'm going to give you another infantry battalion. Anyone in particular you want? Peters asked. Sir, how about my old battalion, 3rd of the 327th? I know Dan Corey. We served in Vietnam together. Me as a rifle platoon leader and him as a pilot. That battalion did really good at JRTC and did a number back on the defense. I'd like to take him, Clark requested. Okay, I'll put a priority on getting him moved up here. He'll be here by tomorrow morning. May not have all his stuff, but it can convoy up soon enough, Peters said, pausing for a moment. Oh, one more thing. Your air assault will be in conjunction with a brigade drop from the 82nd going in on the airport just to the east of your objective. Sure would be nice to be standing in that compound when Ford finally gets there, he added with a grin. Corey, Hall here. Get your battalion ready to move. Aircraft will be arriving in 2 hours. 2 turns of 20 Blackhawks with 10 CH-47 for vehicles. Everything else goes by road. Have your XO put a convoy together and head for Fob Falcon. When you get there, you're attached to the 3rd Brigade. Colonel Clark wants to see you as soon as you arrive. Don't get comfortable. You're not going to be there long. Any questions? Colonel Hall asked. No, sir, that's pretty clear. I'll move the battalion to PZ posture in 30 minutes. Anything else, sir? Corey asked. No. Good luck. That was the last thing Corey heard before the line went dead. Corey dismounted from the first of the Black Hawk helicopters, delivering his battalion to Falcon. He was met by Colonel Clark, who was sitting in his vehicle. Corey, toss your ruck in the back and let's take a ride, Clark indicated, with a thumb pointing to the back. Yes, sir. How you doing? Corey replied happily, removing his 100-pound rucksack from his back and placing it in the back of the Humvee. Doing good. Your boys ready for some contact? Clark inquired. They're ready to go home, and if this is the road home, then they're ready. As they drove to the talk that 3rd Brigade had set up at Falcon, Clark briefly went over the upcoming mission with Corey. When we get in the TOW C, the ops guys will brief the plan to you and the other battalion commanders, Clark said as the vehicle came to a halt in front of a GP medium tent. Going inside, Corey saw another battalion commander that he recognized but knew little of the other commanders, as they'd only really met at social functions and had seldom worked together. But everything was done by well-defined SOP, so that shouldn't be a problem. Gentlemen, if you'll take a seat, we'll get started, the operations officer said, approaching the front of the tent and the map board, on which there was a 150,000 map and a blown-up photo of the military complex. The seats were absent, so most just stood and took notes on their maps. As of yesterday, elements of the 2nd Iraqi Division were occupying this military complex and the headquarters of the 2 Iraqi Corps. Yesterday afternoon, a signals intercept indicated that the Twy Corps is leaving, and the 2nd Iraqi Division has been pulling out since last night. Remnants of the other divisions are attempting to move quickly through the area with no organized command and control from what's being observed, the ops officer explained. Our mission is to secure landing zones on the perimeter of the compound for follow-on insertion by the 2nd Brigade from Falcon, and hold the area until the arrival of ground link-up forces. Simultaneously, the 82nd's going to conduct an airborne insertion into the airport with their 3rd Brigade. Once 2nd Brigade arrives, we'll push out and clear the complex. Any questions? Fire support? Asked Andy Birdie, the 2nd of the 187th Commander. Fire support will be our attack helicopters and TAC Air. Major Bledsoe will be on the first lift going in with the brigade commander and myself. Who's the link-up force? Hank Kinnison, who commanded the 1st of the 187th, asked. Hank, that's a good question. The 29th and 28th Divisions are coming up from the south on 2 different axes. The 29th is closest to Falcon right now, but the 28th is closest to Tabuk and approaching it from the southeast. We'll just have to wait and see who comes knocking first. As long as it's not Iraqi, I couldn't care less. Oh, and as long as it's not the Marines coming to rescue us like we rescued them at Kaysan in Nam, Clark concluded, with everyone snickering. Okay, here are your assigned landing zones. Battle Force, you'll be in the north in this open area. Your LZ is a click long and plenty big enough to get all the aircraft in. You're to secure these buildings along the south side and north of this major thoroughfare. Prevent any direct fire from these buildings on the northwest side. Questions, sir? The ops officer asked. No, I got it, Corey said. The ops officer then addressed the locations for the other 3 battalion commanders and the flight order. Corey would be the first of 20 Black Hawk helicopters, with a load of 15 soldiers per aircraft. That would get half of the battalion's infantry soldiers into the landing zone on the first lift, with the second lift an hour plus later bringing in the remaining half. The battalion also got 5 CH-47s in 2 turns to bring in vehicles. Corey decided that the first 5 loads would be the battalion ops officer's vehicle, along with the TACP vehicle, and 8 tow vehicles, as the CH-47 could carry 2 vehicles at a time. The second lift of CH-47s would bring in 4 more TAU vehicles, 4 cargo Humvees loaded with ammo, sea rations, and batteries, 1 ambulance, and his vehicle. He noted that both northwest and south of his objective were hospitals, if he needed to get soldiers there. If so, then one would be seized early on. Gentlemen, if there are no more questions, we load at 0345 and launch at 0400 with an anticipated landing time of 04440. See you all on the objective, Bob Clark said. The 3rd Brigade, 82nd, was consolidated at the airport in Jeddah. All day, C-130 aircraft had been arriving and lining up in the taxi area. Soldiers were in the Haji tents waiting for orders to begin shooting up. Squad leaders had gone over the unit packing lists earlier in the day to ensure the soldiers had just what they needed and nothing more. Soldiers will always attempt to pack creature comfort items that only weigh them down and exhaust them in the heat. The day before, Colonel Jim Irons had received the mission and had worked his plan for the brigade takedown of the airfield. He appreciated the fact that the 101st was going to be air assaulting the military complex to the west and tying up any potential reinforcements at about the time he was scheduled to drop. What really warmed his heart was knowing that the 101st would also be bringing Apache helicopters and medevac aircraft if needed. His orders were to hold the airfield until relieved by ground forces. It would be either the 28th Infantry Division or the 29th. No one could give him a satisfactory answer as to which. As Colonel Irons sat under a Haji tent drinking a warm soda, an Air Force colonel approached. "You the commander of this bunch?" he asked with a smile and an extended hand. "Sure enough am, and proud of the fact. Who might you be?" Irons said, standing and accepting the outstretched hand. "Billy Butane, Colonel, USF and I command these aircraft that you're crazy enough to want to jump out of over an enemy-held airfield." "Well, Billy, we figure that's a lot safer than being on them when you attempt to land them. Takeoff optional, but landing is mandatory, I understand." "Jim Irons," Irons joked. "Got me there. Thought I'd go over the flight route in time with you," Butane said as he pulled out his map and spread it out on a table. "We'll take off from here," he pointed at Jeddah, "and turn out over the Red Sea. No need to worry about air defense missiles out there. We'll then proceed north in a trail formation. The Navy is providing us with a cap in case an Iraqi fighter shows up unexpectedly. At this point," he paused to point at a specific point on the map, "we make a 90-degree right turn to a 090 heading and drop to 600 feet AGL above ground level before heading straight to the airfield at Tabuk. One pass and everyone out. How does that sound to you?" "Sounds good. How's the weather?" Irons asked. "Should be a fairly smooth flight. No wind to speak of and a moonless night on top of that. GPS has the airfield dialed in, so we should hit the drop zone with no problem," Butane indicated. "Please hit the drop zone. Too soon, and we wind up right in the middle of a major enemy concentration. Too late, and we're going to be running to get back to our objective," Irons said in all seriousness. "Don't worry, I promise to hit the green light the minute we're over the drop zone. What drop altitude do you want?" Butane asked. "We train at 1,200 feet, but I'll take 600 and be happy. Don't want the boys sitting up in the sky too long. 600 gives us time to deploy our reserve if there's a problem. At Corregidor in World War II, the drop altitude was 350 feet and no reserves were worn. Everyone made it okay. A few strains and broken legs, but that was crappy PLF, and not the drop altitude," Irons explained. "PLF?" Butane quizzed. "Parachute landing fall," Irons answered. He noticed that Butane had no jump wings on his flight suit. "Any idea what the air defense situation around the drop zone is?" "There are some guns and they've been pinpointed. We've been told they'll be taken out before we arrive. There's also an SA-300 along the flight path near the military complex, but it's scheduled to be taken care of as well," Butane explained. "God, I hope you're right. Any idea who's going to take them out?" Irons quizzed. "Nope, and I have to just put my trust in God on those items," Butane said, pausing to look around at the young soldiers surrounding them. "Where do we find men that are willing to do this? Their average age is what, 22? Butane asked. "Actually, the average age of my brigade is 20. I'm the old man at 43. We find these guys passing footballs on the high school playing field, or working on their cars in the driveways, or attempting to impress the girls at the mall. Hell, if you look closely, we have some women that'll be making this drop as well. It's not just a man's game. I have women that operate our Stinger missiles, our ground surveillance radar, our medics. They all do this looking for a challenge, trying to prove something to someone, or to themselves. No one steps out of a perfectly good airplane without some sense of fear. Overcoming that fear is the challenge, and I've yet to have a jump refusal in the brigade. I don't expect any tonight. What aircraft are you flying?" "You are flying tonight, are you not?" Irons asked. "Jim, I lead my formations. I'll be in the chalk 1 position," Butane said, looking Irons right in the eyes. "Good. I'll be on your plane then. I'll be in the door position. Let's pray it all goes well," Irons said, extending his hand. "Drop time is 0430. I'll try to be on time," Butane said, accepting the handshake. "Starlight 2, home plate over. Zotenathin Tortum." Kor called. "That's unusual," Lieutenant Scroggins thought as he picked up the hand mic. "Home plate, Starlight 2, over." "Starlight 2, you will have company at 0430 hours. We need you to clearly mark that Sierra Alpha 6 by 0400 hours. How copy?" Scroggins had to think about this one for a moment. Roger, how about India Romeo Chem Sticks? Over. Starlight, that'll work, but we need a sufficient number to mark the target, Home Plate stated. Home Plate, that's about the best I can do. We don't carry heavy weapons to create an explosion. Over. Roger, then that will have to do, but have it marked by 0400 hours. Out! Scroggins looked at his watch. It was 200. It would waste too much time for him to run down to May's and Smith's position, for him to do the job himself. Starlight 2-1, Starlight 2, over. Starlight 2, 2-1, go ahead. 2-1, how many IR chem sticks do you have? Scroggins held his breath, afraid that Mays hadn't taken any with him. Wait 1, 2, was the response. He knew Mays was tearing through his rucksack, looking to see how many he had. Then he would shake down Smith to see what he had. 2, this is 2-1. We have 6 IR chem sticks, over. Roger, they'll have to do. I need you to take them and lay them out around that Sierra Alpha 300 in your sector, over. 2, are you nuts? Over. No, we're going to have friendly company soon, and that site needs to be marked plainly by Aero 400. Do you copy? 2, we copy. But we want you to know that our mothers are not going to be happy about our taking this action, Mays stated, and dropped the hand mic. No Mercy 6 was leading a flight of 4 AH-64 Apache helicopters. Each was armed with 8 AGM-114 Hellfire air-to-ground missiles and 2 pods of Hydra 70 rockets, for a total of 38 rockets, in addition to the 30mm M230 chain gun in the nose of the aircraft with 1,200 rounds. Sitting in the armored cockpit, No Mercy 6 was fairly confident that tonight's mission would come off very well. He had to be on station by Oro 400, and it was coming up on 0345, as he glanced at the clock mounted on the console of the aircraft. The 4 Apache helicopters were flying nap of the earth, very low and very slow, using their night vision systems to avoid running into anything and scanning with their target acquisition system for the intended target. They had the coordinates of the target, but things tended to look a bit different when navigating at night. Sir, do you think these guys never heard about light discipline? Asked Warrant Officer Connors, sitting in the co-pilot gunner's position of No Mercy 6's aircraft. In front of them, at a range of 6 kilometers, was the southern end of a military complex that they were told had the target, an SA-6 system. It was well marked as most of the lights were on. A trickle of vehicles could be seen moving out of the complex to the west. Okay, let's move up and see if we can locate the IR chem lights that are supposed to be marking the target. They should be around a clump of trees just south of the complex, No Mercy 6 said to his co-pilot. The other 3 aircraft just followed his lead. They had decided in the mission brief to maintain radio silence until after the shooting started. They hoped that they were below the capabilities of the acquisition radar on the SA-6. No Mercy 6 scanned the terrain for the next hill mass that they could fly to and hide behind as he pushed the nose over the gained some speed for the move. 2 clicks closer to the complex was the next hide position, where they came to a hover. Okay, coming up, No Mercy 6 said. Roger, I'm looking, Warrant Officer Connors said over the aircraft intercom. They crested the hill, and Connors said, got it. Using his TADS, or Target Acquisition Designation System, he focused on the target. No Mercy 6 glanced at the other 3 aircraft and noticed they all turned to a heading parallel to his. What are you seeing? No Mercy 6 asked. I've got 3 of the chem sticks, but the launcher is generating a lot more of a signature. He's running his engine. Appears that the commo nets are down. I think he's getting ready to move, Connors speculated. Fire when ready, No Mercy 6 ordered. The words had hardly cleared his mouth when the first Hellfire missile left the aircraft. Almost immediately, the other 3 aircraft launched missiles. The 4 missiles converged on the SA-6 launchers. The combination of 4 Hellfire missiles and the 3 missiles on the launcher all exploding at the same time left no doubt in anyone's mind that the launcher was destroyed. "There's another!" Connors almost yelled as the fireball silhouetted another SA-6 launcher. "Engage," No Mercy 6 ordered. He then broke radio silence. "No Mercy elements, engage targets of opportunity. It appears we've hit a battery." Flashes in his peripheral vision told him the other aircraft had heard the order and were engaging as another launcher was destroyed in a spectacular display of fireworks. "No Mercy 6, No Mercy 4-1, scratch another launcher." "Roger, there should be 2 more somewhere and the command radar vehicle." "No Mercy 6, I have the radar in sight. Engaging." No Mercy 6 recognized the voice of No Mercy 4-2 as another Hellfire missile was launched. Moments later, there was another explosion. Not as spectacular are the others, but a kill nonetheless. "No Mercy 6, I have a launcher attempting to move north. Engaging," reported the voice of No Mercy 4-3. In the distance, another spectacular explosion. 3 launchers destroyed, but 1 is still alive, thought No Mercy 6. Got to get that last launcher. He knew that besides the centralized radar for guidance, the SA-6 also had a visual sight system to engage aircraft. He had to kill this last launcher. "No Mercy elements, there's 1 more launcher alive. We've got to get it. He can visually acquire and engage us. Be careful, but we have to find him. Over." 6. This is 4-1. I'll swing to the east. He should be in that treed area where the others were located. "Roger. Break. 4-3. How about you wing more to the west? Break. 4-2. You and I will approach from here. Stay low." "Roger. My wheels are rolling on the ground. I'm so low," 4-2 reported. As the 4 aircraft converged on the stand of trees, the heat signatures of the burning vehicles dominated their night vision systems, making it difficult to locate a vehicle that wasn't generating any heat. Approximately 1,000 meters from the grove of trees, No Mercy 6 made a decision. "All No Mercy elements, close to 1,000 meters and engage the area with rockets. Let's see if we can flush him out." He received a positive response from each aircraft. Coming to a hover, Mr. Connor moved his sight onto the southern portion of the grove and launched 4 rockets, then moved the aircraft slightly and fired 4 more. The other aircraft were employing the same tactic. The grove of trees was experiencing the same effect as if they were being hit with 105 mm artillery rounds. Flushed like a flock of quail, 6 vehicles raced out of the grove. The launcher was clearly identified. No Mercy 4-1 scored the kill. The other aircraft engaged the ammunition carriers and command vehicles. At Oro 410, the area was clearly marked with burning vehicles. 6 minutes, the jumpmaster sounded off as the flight of C-130 aircraft approached the Tabuk airport from the west. Billy Butane had received the reassuring call that the SA-6 battery had been destroyed, which he passed on to Jim Irons, who was standing in the number 1 stick position next to the door. For the next 6 minutes, everyone mentally prepared themselves for what was about to happen. Almost everyone on the plane had conducted at least 1 jump since jump school, but not this low and not in combat. Anxiety was running high and certainly got the adrenaline flowing. "Stand in the door," the jumpmaster directed Irons, who moved immediately to take his position. The red light was still illuminated, and he waited in anticipation for the green light. As the green light came on, Irons was out the door before the jumpmaster could say, "Go," and a stream of paratroopers followed him. Irons looked up to check his canopy first, and it was good. Then he glanced to see if he could see the other aircraft. He could not, as they were all blacked out. Dropping his rucksack on the end of its 30-foot tether, he looked down and realized the ground was coming up, quickly. Damn, 600 feet doesn't give you much time. His PLF was a good one in the soft sand. He was thankful he didn't land on the concrete runway. Quickly removing his parachute harness and gathering his rucksack, He remained kneeling and oriented himself as to where he was and the layout of the airport. He found himself on the west side of the 3113 runway and next to the Omni beacon. Perfect drop, Billy, he thought. The rest of the brigade was being dropped along the 2406 runway south of the main terminal. He heard soldiers landing all around him as well as the occasional piece of equipment that someone had lost in the jump. He just hoped none landed on him. That was the most dangerous sound he was hearing, as no shots had been fired. Could we have totally surprised them? Irons wondered. Looking down the 2406 runway, he saw chem light markers illuminating rally points for the different units. Soon, the last plane passed overhead and disgorged its jumpers. They had 30 minutes to clear the 2406 runway before more C-130 aircraft would be coming in with heavy drop and LAPS loads. No one could be on the runway for those drops. Troops liked to watch the low-altitude parachute extraction systems, but it was too dangerous to be anywhere near the runway, as some loads were known to crash into the ground after sliding out of the back of the aircraft. Aircraft were also known to belly onto the ground when dropping the load, resulting in a total crash. Slowly, the chem light patterns spread out across the airport to seize their respective objectives. A few shots were heard, and then the rhythm of automatic weapons fire was accented by the green and red tracers crisscrossing the airfield. Irons grabbed his rucksack and the squad of soldiers around him and moved out for his objective, the control tower 800 yards to the northeast. Damn, I just had to have the door position. If I'd been 4th or 5th in the stick, I'd only have about 200 yards to hump. Lesson learned, he mumbled to himself as he jogged with the young soldiers around him. Corey was in Chalk 10 of the 20 aircraft lift. He wanted to be positioned in the middle of the objective on landing. The first 5 aircraft contained Alpha Company soldiers, and they were to cover the area to the northwest of the landing zone. Captain Mulford only needed to suppress and direct fire weapons that could range the landing zone as the nearest building was about 175 yards to the edge of the landing zone. A dirt berm offered some good concealment for those soldiers. Bravo Company had the southwest side of the landing zone, with Charlie Company taking the southeastern side. Until the second lift came in, the battalion could only clear the immediate buildings on the landing zone and secure only a few of those. The area appeared to be some sort of racetrack, with a high tower on the south side. Corey immediately gathered his commander team and climbed to the top of the tower, which offered good visibility and good radio reception. After 10 minutes, reports started to come in. Battle Force 6, Gladiator 6, over, Mulford called, not used to the new call signs that the battalion had been issued. Who was the dumbass that had us change call signs and frequencies right in the middle of this operation? Let's add more to the fog of war, Mulford was thinking. Gladiator 6, go ahead, Major Wells, the battalion operations officer, responded. Battle Force 3, Gladiator 6, we have secured the north perimeter. All is quiet. Over. Roger. Break, Spartan 6, over. Battle Force 3, we have secured 2 buildings and are clearing others. Negative contact with anyone. Place is deserted. Over, Captain Grubich reported. Battle Force 3, Centurion 6, over, Captain Agather radioed. Centurion 6, go ahead. Roger, we've secured 3 buildings and are clearing the others. We've detained 2 people who are telling us that everyone bugged out of here early last night, heading east. Over. Roger. After the next lift comes in, let's get those 2 up here so we can send them back to higher. In fact, have them on the LZ and load them onto a bird. Tell the pilots to deliver them to higher. How copy? Battle Force 3, I have good copy and will have them standing by. As Major Wells was communicating with the company commanders, Lieutenant Colonel Corey watched the CH-47 aircraft approaching with his vehicles. He couldn't relax until he had an anti-tank capability on the ground, with the battalion minus now. The 4 battalions of the brigade had landed in a circle around the military complex, but a mile apart from each other, with an urban terrain between them. Corey prayed that a large force wasn't in there, as this would not be an easy fight for one brigade, even a reinforced brigade.
Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss another video.
In the meantime, we have plenty of reading material to keep you busy. You can find it all on our website, frontlinepublishinginc.com.